morning. Today we will just do the teaching and then take a short break and set up the table because it's also the 10th day according to Tibetan calendar. So many of us have what's called Tsok commitment. So that's what we're going to do so that you don't have to return in the evening. Yeah. So that's our plan for today. Namo Guru Be Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Be Namo Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Be Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Kanden la je guen jen do kane ra ga sho sa guan de chun zhen ze che ye yang bo guen ye lo san zhang se dan je pa ne de che so so de ye na ga se de pe de che ze la ma ye be zo ka ta lo de be so yo no xian zhong to liao yang ba ye che ye ya shu so so xie je che ge ja be lo zhe to ge sa na be ye yo le xie ta be be ye ra me ze be go to de be de Chang Zi Ye Wo Xue Ye Na Yang Zo Me Do Da Jie Xin Do Be Na Yang Zi Jie Xia So Wo Xia Ye Zhi Xue Jie Yang So De so yo no xian zhuo xiao yo no xiao yo ba kan xiao do me tu yo ne sa yo ba ye liao yo nga ye ye mi ga ji I would like to remind all of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate bodhicitta motivation, or the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of motivation, we should participate in this Lamrim teaching on the stages of the path leading to enlightenment. I'm going to read about a page or two from this text in English translation, volume number 2, to give you the blessing of oral transmission.
老空比接受些那大了新大新老大新就大瓦空接的，你来个来些人都没下的，的都是空别推呢。刚给名字，这把呀地面那没干就介绍大理人现在。开发的在高边介绍给的新纪律大路面的铁道上就老早现在建就容易。绿的样把没有合着留着把影响新纪律下去留着把影响。我空别忘给俺人在把家的新路了要让给接着新让给新接不能在把空不是新那接的。第二天接着那些大给夸张给就把那去给俺自己吧，但是先老公把先说在这边的你们来不是上边的，你他把你的铁锅巴老都是接老公不是行，见能把洋葱，见能把洋葱的大心结为主要公别人把。大新节些把大新的个下些新大的下些送把你新了我娘就到，第一没老把说把老有娘别老中王年纪，让他结完再把他新了要我作为老女菩萨结的新了让他结完这，让他新了要我作为老结我第一些大的要我到新的都没。叫送把人到今天了，这个这个大给的话了，现在这些把过去新今天了，有的你现在都没有我都，干的这些话了，现在些把一点多了，当给的话了，没到我这现在都没谁东这个就不，老的中啊，我给你的要让他们先给的都给的，大的些，我是打说说的。历史节那个这把这些天你们这那的这个这都来给你买一个，日报是这个给你先进的，那你要的第一年不，第一年不大的些5年级的说的日子些吧没的，反正这那个大了先有了结了，先让大了结。现在这个跑的出来现在别弄跑的那个你们的跑的老街呀，跑的起码是出去老街我现在，现在我把搞到那别地方我把你就老街，好多新的老东西我都能找。现在要老酒来，但是呢你要红色的上酒是你们这个就是大的新的这边。跑的这个现在对我这个上去跑的你看到我这个最后就是在你上去嘛的，看到这个现在这个些，对啥那个对那边下边我在研究那个我这边没有松说也就，两个现在东南街大了没这些都的没得人被去是吧？你这在那么给东西往那么多，你准备拿着说兄弟菜拿着说把那给，给不得那些小把老们那里写了这些都刚给都没有，浪费嘛是吧？浪费没事吧？就是这些别写这边写是都印象上嘛，叫嘛就是什么都引起。你们个定俺，我这在去的说了，假如给这个兄弟的了，跟我是说不进去。那些到我们这我娘那就到我说我你没给这嘛，我到我说不进嘛，我到我引去。让这个我别了，那个大的先进大，就从你这了就个。大的先对你来说，我咱们别让我这我别的我讲，这我的我就他妈这个呢，那他妈这个经济况这个，那个东西讲了就是吧，因这个现在经济况那个地东西来，就是我叫我因为在他现在是到现在这个是我必须我呢。那就到我下面我给让我给我什么的，我到没有？那个他这把这把那走，他门头把那走接了，我不让我不是说我写个对的，然后做什么这个他们没把老就这个给我上面他们给我双人，让他们现在这个同行看有没这个 Kalawa thome be dun deso tani tete sheba shela dai yu cho da jeba da jeba de shi shi de jeba de shi de biwa ti me ma jepa bijeva da jeba dun tu du mi shu go nya be ne ba de ba che ne le tu ma ro go ba sheba di ju ju de di ye ja da da je de ko da la ne ba je yi jo rang do shi de ke wa ta me de chi ro jang yo se bo ti da bi che de de me bo chi do che do che de chi ji ma ji so li shi she ba de ji ne sa ji ya bu zo de me ba ne ga de ga ra ji ro bi ji to da ra ge ka min ji ti da da ra ge ka min ji cho mi jo ra ge lu to lu ji Geshe the me bara do me ba sin la da to me lo yang da lo yang yang jang da kan la ta wa de ye tong je tong du cha gu xin ta ji gong de xun de de da ge da ke yang je ta ke la ni ta pe yo sa wa da ji 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 ni mi go to ma sa ba xin ji de pe yo go to ma sa ba ti ni接到家里给到肉的就在个往开啥，就是菜地往这些呢，现在被所有都上去的好，就是现在那个这些呢，现在的开始呢，都没么都没什么些，现在上路要不然现在的就我人家，我直接给到他开始东西就自己开始学，他开始提高呢，看见所上路当看见，然后这些人家就是所的要开始路面这么修说，路面的那开始不用都开始在松多。现在呢，就是所有的冲突啊，要当这些呢，这样样些呢，你还好是吧？就是到底这里，你当今的农业经济说呢，再起码第一个把握的是要叫嘛的，当这个对呀是吧？这个在，就是第在这里当今的农业的这些，那肉的地方就开始没什么出口的，但这个点你上不上来是吧
Gisela read from the middle of page 52, where the caption reads, point number 2, the ability to exchange self and other if you accustom yourself to the thought of doing so, and to the end of page 55. As you may recall, that last week we talked quite a bit about the need to reflect upon disadvantages or the faults of self-cherishing attitude. And I talked quite a bit about how we can find maybe plenty of examples in this life relating to our own experiences, how due to self-cherishing attitude we face many problematic situations. And then also we talked about the need to reflect on the benefits or the advantages of cherishing others. And we also try to relate it to this lifetime, how people, in the community who are dedicated for the well-being of others, they are respected by others and they are cherished by others. And so as they promote the well-being of the community, their own well-being is taken care of, right? So even in this lifetime, we can observe those things. We are not necessarily talking about the life before or after, which we don't see, right? We can only infer what happened in the past and what might happen in the future. So as Geshe said, that in this life, if we can find for ourselves, thinking in every possible ways, that we could, good examples of our life experiences, problematic and painful, which are really related to the self-cherishing attitude. So in other words, there is a cause and effect relationship between self-cherishing attitude and a lot of the headaches and problems we experience in this lifetime. If we can convince ourselves at this stage, yes, I see that, I experience it, I witness it, right? Then it will be easier for us to infer from this that in the future lives also, right? As long as we have self-cherishing attitude, it will also bring forth a multitude of sufferings because it will have the same cause and effect relationship in the future as well. So it's very important for us to think, through those thoughts. So one of the things we talked about in terms of developing bodhicitta or the spirit of enlightenment or the mind of enlightenment is, we need to train our mind to be able to exchange self for others, right? That's a good thing to do, right? That's greatly beneficial. Well, if it's greatly beneficial, the next question that really automatically arises from this, is it possible to do that? Can you really exchange self for others? Is it something doable, or is that a theoretical conjecture that cannot be implemented, right? What is it? Yeah? Or is it like this kind of a classic story we tell about somebody is dying to procure the jewel crown for the head of the Naga king, right? But that's so like glittering and so attractive, right? I want that for myself. But the fact of the matter is that jewel crown is related to the Naga king's karma. Until you kill that king, you're not, that is not good. When you kill the king, the jewel goes away because it's related to his karma, So it's impossible task. So is exchanging self for others as impossible task as getting the jewel crown from the Naga king's head, right? So we have to really, think all of this possibility. Is it an impossible task or is it a possible task? Okay. No, sir. Right. So the shortcut answer to that is it possible to exchange self for others? The answer is yes. And one of the examples that is used here is think about someone who was our kind of a number one enemy like some time ago in the past. Yeah, and we just hated the very sight of that person, right? Forget about engaging with the person. We just feel disgusted seeing the person. For some reason, our relationships have changed, and this person has become a very close friend. Okay? Now we have a different experience that we want to spend most of our time with this person. If he or she is not there, we feel missing, isn't it? Oh, what if, right? So what happened? The same person was the number one enemy not a long time ago, is now almost like a number one friend now. So really what has changed is our attitudinal orientation towards the person, and the perception of our relationship changes, isn't it? So somebody was an enemy, has become a friend, and now we see that as a friend and we miss him or her, right? Or it might change to the other side, and then we just don't want to see him. Okay? So this tells us that it is very possible through mind training that we are able to cherish, others. No. No.
장은 같이 더 여기 사요라.
So.
어디에서 다들 여기 숨도 알게.
So we have a quote from great Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds or the actions, which will basically tell us that through training of the mind, we can transform our attitude, and it is possible to cherish, others, extend self for others. And another example that Geshe has given is all the Buddhas of the 3 times, right? They have only been able to become Buddhas because of the possibility, not only the possibility, but they did it. They exchanged self for others, right? And the Buddhas of the past, they could only become big Buddhas because they changed their attitudes and orientations towards seeing the things and other beings, and so they become Buddhas. Buddhas of the present, including Shakyamuni Buddha, right, was able to become a Buddha because of changing the attitude and cherishing others. That was possible. And Buddhas of the future will do the same thing, and that's the possibility. And so when we look at the Buddhas and ourselves, as we said, that there was a time that even Shakyamuni Buddha was exactly like us, very ordinary, very deluded, right, full of delusions, and all the craziness that we have. But somewhere, Buddha, was fortunate to meet with, gurus, qualified, and listen to instructions, and then decided to change the course of, action and thinking, and stayed on the path with determination and persistence, and therefore eventually become a Buddha. Okay? Whereas, we stayed the course as we have always been, so we are stuck here. But when we look at the fully endowed human form, or the precious human life, the Gyeltsen in Tibetan, that we have now, is exactly the same as that Shakyamuni Buddha had before. Okay? There is no qualitative difference in that, in terms of abilities and the possibilities. Yeah? And so it's a matter of our own individual choice, determination, persistence, and dedication. And if we don't lack in these qualities, right, and follow the Buddha's way, we too will be able to exchange self for others and become Buddhas. There's no other reason why we cannot, right? Because all the Buddhas have done that, and that shows us that it is very possible to do that. So when we look at mind is not a static entity. It is a very dynamic phenomenon, which means it changes, right? It could change in the positive or in the negative way. Just as our enemy could become a friend, our friend could easily become an enemy. It just depends upon conditioning factors and situations, right? A little trigger, can make our best friend or our relative into our enemy, right? And so then we see that person accordingly as our worst enemy. So that shows us that mind can be trained, right, and transformed to be able to see reality in a different different ways. So now one of the qualms being raised here is, well, we are talking about cherishing others. So does that mean that I really have to care for others' bodies as well? But how is that possible? I mean, somebody's body is not my body, right? If that body is in pain, why should I feel unbearable about it? I mean, how could that be the case? So we have such ideas come up our mind, and so the answer to that question given in the text is, but when we look at this body, which we cherish so much, this is mine, right? Or this is I, whatever case may be. When we look at its origin, it really did not belong to us in the first place. It is a product of semen and blood of our parents, isn't it? It's a part of their, physical elements. There's nothing I in that, right? And but somehow the mixture of their semen and blood has formed this body, and then we have for many lifetimes used to identifying ourselves with this body, and now we claim it to be mine, right? This is my body, right? Although it is a part of somebody's elements, and now we say this is mine, okay? And so we do everything to protect it. So if it is possible to think of something that's not our mind in the first place, but now we claim it to be mine and we cherish it like anything, it should also be very possible to care for others, right? When others are in pain, physically or whatever the case may be, it is very possible to empathize with their pain, and that should also be very possible. Why is not that possible, to empathize with others' feelings and pain, when we can think this body, which is not ours to begin with, we think this is mine, really, So it's not an easy task. Nobody's saying it's easy to do that, but we're seeing that through consistent training of the mind, it is very possible to exchange self for others. And the map to do that, so to speak, the guideline is that we should really seriously think about in all possible ways the faults of cherishing, self-cherishing attitude, self-centeredness. How this has been the real culprit, and it has given us more than enough headaches and pain. Yeah. In all possible ways, we should explore the benefits of cherishing others, why that is a better option and a good thing, really. Yeah. And then in every possible ways, we should think about the possibility to exchange self for others. If we kind of explore all the really justifications and reasons that all of these things are possible, then we can make a decision that, okay, now it is possible to exchange self for others, and I'm going to follow that, right, that path, or that track. So we have to be able to make a decision in that way. So as in all those exploring the reasons why self-cherishing attitude is bad, 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 and cherishing other is good, better, and best, and it's possible to exchange self for others, and therefore I am going to decide to follow this mind training. Now what does exchanging self for others mean? Does it mean that I should think that others are me and I'm others? That's not what it is. What it is in terms of changing our attitudes. Yeah? And what kind of attitude as? So far, at the negligence of others' well-being, we have cherished, I like anything, isn't it? now instead of cherishing I like anything, let's kind of replace the I with others. Try to learn to cherish others, right? That attitude change, isn't it? Instead of being negligent about others' well-being, now let's try to be negligent about our selfish interest, isn't it? So that's what we call exchanging self for others. It is really changing our attitudinal orientations, not like, well, now I see that you are me and I'm you. Like, no, that's, not what it is, right? What it is replace the self by others in terms of cherishing, and replace self, others by self in terms of negligence, in the sense like, well, negligence sounds very negative here, right? In terms of neglecting the well-being of others, we should learn to neglect our selfish interest. So in short, what it means is instead of pursuing one's selfish interests and goals, we dedicate ourselves to promote the well-being and interests of the others, isn't it? And instead of making every effort just to get rid of the pain related to our own selfish attitude, we should learn to dedicate ourselves to help alleviate others' pain and suffering, right? And that has to come from within us. So that kind of changes, transformation within us, is what we call exchanging self for others. No, sure. No, sure. No, sure. Yes. So as we decide to train our mind, like gradually in that way, to exchange self for others, I mean, we face a lot of attitudinal obstacles, right? And one of which is this kind of a perceptual obstacle that we really have this kind of static, categorical distinction between self and others, like, others. It's kind of independent others, nothing to do with me, right? Self, that's me, all me, right? So we have this kind of very static, categorical distinction between I and they, or self and others. Yeah, and that pops out like, well, that's how it is. So how can I care for others? Like, they are there, like I'm here, right? So what's the connection here? There isn't one. So that's the obstacle in our mind. But to be able to address that kind of a static categorizations, we said, you know what? Actually, self and others exist relatively, isn't it? Self exists because of others, others exist because of self. There is no such thing as independent self and others. Okay? Maybe the easier example is, think about this hill and that hill, right? When you are standing on top of this hill, you're looking that side like, oh, that hill is greener on that, right? I want to go there. Then you go there. Now that hill becomes at this hill, and this hill becomes at that hill, right? Hills has not moved. They didn't say, like, I'm going to go there because you said this and that, right? Hills stayed wherever they are. It's just that our positional changes, isn't it? Over here, it is this. The reference point is me here, right? It's over that hill. Then you move there. Now this becomes that, and that becomes this, see? So that's how relatively things are existent. Self and others exist only relatively. There are no independent, right, intrinsic self and others that are so statically, categorically different from one another. So this is how we have to think about so that we will be able to address that kind of obstacle in our mind. No.
Kati Jetoya de Period,
No.
Karsa. Love you so much.
No.
The Indian you consider Shansi Semi, Deva, that is in the Deva, Parisi, more than the Parim, can't be the children to done it. Run to Madonna, can't be the same. She said a bit of Inza, and the Diario is, or did that love you come?
No. If you look at like different colors like blue and yellow, right? I mean, we cannot say like, you know what, well, you should think the blue is yellow and yellow is the blue. No, that's not possible because blue is blue and green is green, or what yellow is yellow. But certain others are not like a static like those colors, right? Blue and yellow, they are more like this and that here, right? As our position changes, you know, our perceptions of this and that changes accordingly. So to substantiate that point, on page 54, right on the top, we have a quote from Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva's compendium of a training called Labtu in Tibetan, Shiksha Samukcha. Okay? And so which reads, by becoming accustomed to the equality of self and others, the spirit of enlightenment becomes firm. Self and others are interdependent. Like this side and the other side of a river, they are falls. The other bank is not in itself other. In relation to someone else, it is this bank. Similarly, self does not exist in its own right. In relation to someone else, it is other. Yeah, so this tells us about the relational interdependence between self and others, right? So therefore, it is very possible for us to be able to learn to cherish others, and through a training of the mind, we will be able to cherish others as much as we cherish ourselves now.
Didn't take good 10 minutes. And you might think you do, because you got them, but the gave it a show with negative. Social radio, gave it to me, Shundu Yamara. You know, gave it to me to say I don't Shundu Ya. And they say, Tavi in North to do not do it, you did that Google is in the Google.
No.
To go at it, gave it to me, the social legal money, gave it the Kibosh on the soda pay.
No.
Mr. Shizar.
No.
So that's love, you know.
No. And then another obstacle that might, we might encounter as we train our mind to extend self for others is, our mind might start to say, like, you know what? It's none of your business what happens to others. If they are happy, it doesn't affect you. It's their happiness. If their life sucks, your life is not sucking, So it doesn't matter. It's none of your business, Good or bad happens to them, that's them, right? Why are you so concerned or about that? Have to be concerned. But again, this is where I think the static categorization is again tricking our mind, or so to speak, influences us negatively. So in which case, then parallel argument is being made here. In that case, then when we are young, why we are working so hard to save money for the old age? Right? Because whatever happens later on in our life, that's not affecting right now, isn't it? The youth, why should, we don't enjoy the youth? We just, work hard to save the money so that when we become old, we said, then we will be able to take care of ourselves. Because old is a different situation. That will come much later time, isn't it? So when you are old, the youth state has already ceased to exist. You are not young anymore. So the youth and the old do not affect, right, directly each other. What happens in the old age, it happens later, right? And what you're experiencing now as a youth, it doesn't affect the old age because old age hasn't appeared yet, right? So why we are so concerned about, right, what is going to happen when we become old, if that's the case, because these two should be like a static categorization, different things.
구이세야로 용어
Right.
어디가 되게 무슨 다 근데 깡벌 세마스 나가나서 거 같아 그지
Right.
깡베 세마스 나서कर 락베 똥그르지 깡베 도도
Right. And then, another example given is, if something, sticks to your, like a foot and very painful, why should the hand go to help to remove the, the pain? Because, hand has nothing to do with the feet, because feet is feet, right? Hand is hand. Why is the hand worried about the feet's pain? Let the feet deal with it. Well, the feet has no ability to take its whatever the thorn out on its own, right? Maybe the better example is, as Geshe says, is, why do parents, work so hard to take care of their children? Because they are completely two different people, isn't it? Why do the children have to worry about taking care of their parents? Because their parents, they are not their parents, right? Their parents are their parents, right? So why do the parents and children have to care for each other, right? Because they are totally two different people. There's no reason, Why should that be the case? If we go with that, logic. And then one might say that, if the feet has a pain, because something stuck into it, then the hand must cooperate and help that, because that's part of the same body, It's just your body. It's the different parts of your body. So therefore, obviously, you need help. Okay? But then, thinking at the line, they said, in that case, it doesn't matter. It's your body or somebody's body. Body is body. Physically the same thing, isn't it? Whether your body is in pain or somebody's body is in pain, a body is in a pain, that needs help. So it should be the same thing. We should, we should help the others. So if we kind of, let's say, the obstacle mind tells us that, whatever happens to others, good and bad, it's none of your business. It's the other people, right? They're going through that, right? If that's the case, then all the things that all of us are trying to do here, right? Listening to the Dharma, try to practice it, right? We are really doing it more for the future lives, isn't it? Right? We want a better rebirth in the future, whatever the case may be. So then this should not work either, right? Why should we worry about it? Because, in our next lives, we will be different beings. It's not the same being even, isn't it? So why are we investing so much in the study and practice of Dharma for our future rebirths? Anyway, we are not going to be the same people, right? So the reason why, we say that if any part of our body is in pain, need of help, the other part of the body should help, because they are all parts of the same body. They belong to the same continuum, isn't it? Same collection of the body. Okay? And we should work hard now for our future in this life or the future lives, because of the continuity of life, isn't it? The same continuum, okay? Same collection. If this is true in our case, it should also be true in the case of others as well, isn't it? By the way, everything, exists as mere, merely labeled phenomena. There is nothing that exists intrinsically in and of itself. everything is labeled onto something else. On the collection of, how should I say, aggregates, then a label is given. I, you, self, others, isn't it? It's just a label. There's nothing from the side of the collection of phenomenon said, call me I, call me self, call me other, don't call me other, right? Nothing says that, right? Because everything is labeled onto a collection or a continuity of many things, okay? So everything is dependently existent, interdependently existent. So when we look kind of ontologically to the self and others or any phenomenon, everything is relatively existent. There cannot be self existing in and of itself without others. There cannot be others, right, existing in and of themselves without the self. Self exists because of others, others exist because of self. So there is that interdependent connection between the two. It's not like two unrelated phenomena here. So therefore, on this basis, relational interdependence, so we can train our mind to be able to cherish others and care for others. And because of like this habituation over many lifetimes, that we have developed this kind of automatic identification with our collection of body and mind as me or I, right? And then we cherish everything. If something painful comes, okay, I feel the need to remove it, isn't it? So if we train our mind to be able to care for others, empathize with others, it becomes very possible that when others are in pain, right, we find it unbearable. It is as if we are in pain, right? We feel the need to do anything we could to alleviate their suffering. So that kind of empathetic experience is very possible through training of the mind. So as we are training our mind to cherish others, we might encounter those obstacles, such as the one we said, that as if there's a static categorical distinction between self and others. Whatever happens to others has nothing to do with me. Whatever happens to me has nothing to do with them. Okay? That is actually in some sense a misperception. If that's the case, then why do parents have to care for and work for the children, and children have to take care for the parents? They are totally two different individuals, right? They cannot feel for each other and cannot really care for each other. But that's not the case, as we know. So another thing is, being in samsara so long, we have been so habituated thinking in terms of self-cherishing attitude, isn't it? It seems to be like a very automatic built-in system in us, but for all this time in samsara, it hasn't done really anything good. Like the legacy of self-cherishing attitude sucks, really. There's nothing great about it to be proud about it. We say like, wow, it has really made me this great. Like there's something good about it. No. Yeah? So all the problems we have faced in samsara are basically because of self-cherishing attitude. So that's the legacy self-cherishing attitude provides us, which we don't want in the first place, right? So if we don't change our attitude now, stay with it, then this is all going to continue and further, isn't it? So if we want to have a different legacy, we want to have a different outcome, so then it is important for us to change our attitude and cherish others instead. So we should really seriously engage in this kind of contemplation or reflection that self-cherishing attitude has, done more than enough harm and damage to us being in samsara. Okay? All the rebirths we have already taken and suffered, and what we suffer right now, if we stay on course and don't change this, our future is going to be like the same or worse, if you will. Okay? So even we must stay in the samsara even for much, much longer time. And that time, if we have a capability to think back like, oh, I wish I had, cherished others, then. Now I might have become Buddha by this time already, It has been so long and much longer in samsara, So that might be what happens, to us. Why we are in samsara and why Buddha has already become Buddha. It's not like somebody kept us in samsara, right? That's, we'll only let Buddha go, okay? You just stay here. No, it's just our attitude has kept us. The self-cherishing attitude has kept us in samsara, whereas Buddha was smart at a certain point of time in his life. He said, you know what, I have done this more than enough and I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to think outside the boxes and I'm going to go a different direction. And he did that, and he ended up in a different destination. He's called Buddha now, isn't it? So we are still stuck because of our own self-cherishing attitude. And so from spirituality point of view, as we often say, there is no real enemy outside. The real enemy, which is the source of all our misery and suffering, samsara, is our own self-cherishing attitude. This is our enemy, and we need to recognize that. And we should develop the conviction that as long as we cherish this and keep with us, we are bound to experience like the same or more suffering in the future. Okay? Our narrative and storyline is going to not change. It's going to be the same storyline, forever and forever. But as Geshe said, and we have explored many options, that based upon our own life experiences, we can see how self-cherishing attitude really brings us a lot of headaches and problems, isn't it? It's not something like in the Tantra, we have to do a lot of visualization. Visualize, now you are there. So you're that, yeah, really, I know I'm not that, but okay, I'm thinking I'm that. Deity. So in Tantra, we employ a lot of imagination, like visualize, you are there. That's not what it is. Here, we really have a lot of, life experiences that can cooperate the thing that self-attitude, cherishing attitude really brings us a lot of troubles. It's not imaginative thinking only, right? So that's why it's important for us to explore all of those things and then come to the sense that it is a much better option, and I'm going to make effort to, reduce the self-cherishing attitude and learn to cherish others.
알리 깨 마주다 깨 마주디 시야마 깨부터 깨나 니티 마주게
no, so,
남자 깨는 가지고 하고는 이거다
no,
깨서 안 되면 남자 님부터 하지 나 몸새 들어가지
no, right,
맞아
no, right.
저거 가서 깨도 또 참을 야다 야야 스미 이제 딱 가지고 놀아
No, right.
다들 니모도 되게 도와서 방도 봐
No, so,
뭐지 그 영어도 나서 배 그만 내가 대신 남자 배게 주터버리 쉬우나
no, so,
대표도 알아
no, right. So as it is stated in the text that of course it's not enough for us to do this kind of a reflection or thinking contemplation once, a couple of times. No, we have to do this repeatedly, okay? So of course our really goal is to be able to prevent self-cherishing attitude from arising in our mind. Well, that's a tall claim as of now, right? Because it's more likely to pop up than not, okay? But that's okay. As it pops up in our mind, we recognize that, well, you're here now, right? And then we think about all the possible ways about the faults of self-cherishing attitude, try to counteract it, minimize it at least, isn't it? And as we are cherishing others, if we other obstacle thoughts come like, why you are cherishing others, none of your business, then we think about the benefits of cherishing others more so that it helps us to stay on the course, isn't it? So this is how we apply antidotes and train our mind. As Geshe has rightly said, that of course our goal is to be able to prevent self-cherishing attitude from arising in the first place, but that's unlikely at this stage. But as the self-cherishing attitude pops up, we should be able to recognize it, counteract with some other way of thinking. It's just like if we see a thief stealing up something from us, and we catch that person red-handed, isn't it? So like that, we just can't be negligent about self-cherishing attitude, that it pops up, we're like, yeah, whatever, right? Or worse than that is we kind of glued with it, like now we justify everywhere, yeah, that's right, I'm the most important human being in the world, go kind of with that. Then, every justification we give, it strengthens the delusional thinking, and the self-cherishing attitude becomes, strong and stronger, and then we really become more delusional, isn't it? We have to think differently, said, you know what, it brings a lot of problems. I know you have come up in my mind. I recognize this, but I'm going to think about all the headaches we have created and try to minimize it, right? And that's called practice, isn't it? So practicing, this is all part of practice. We try to reduce the self-cherishing attitude, enhance the cherishing others, right? Counteract all these different negativities, thoughts, right? This is part of our practice and training, okay? Yes. No. No. So when any kind of afflictive emotion or delusion arises in our mind, we should really now be very vigilant and cut down, if you will, our loyalty towards delusions, isn't it? Shungsangpo Tibetan. As it is talked about in the 7-point mind training, isn't it? And if we stay very loyal to our afflictive emotions, which we have been, over many, long time in samsara, we're like, well, yes, we have been friends for all this long time. I know you well, you know me very well. We are going to party together. Like, no. This is how more delusions come up. Now this is time to say, thank you very much. Now I have no more loyalty to you, and I'm not going to be loyal to you. This loyalty has not benefited me in any way. It has bring me more headaches. This is the time to do it. Okay. No, sir. No, sir. So on page 55, somewhere down at the middle, there is a quote from Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds, which runs, Self-cherishing attitude has harmed me in all my myriad lifetimes in cyclic existence. You, O mind, though you spend countless eons wanting to accomplish your own welfare, through such great hardship, you have accomplished only suffering and so on. Okay, so this is basically, we are challenging the self-cherishing attitude within ourselves that, I have been with you a long time, and so you have done all your, work, and I have not accomplished anything except more suffering. Okay? And so if I cherished others long time ago, by this time I probably would have become a Buddha already, enlightened. But the reason why I'm still not a Buddha in the samsara is, thank you very much, it's you. I'm not going to let you do that again. Yes. And then at the end of page 55, it's talked about that we should train our mind gradually to be able to dedicate everything we have, our body, resources, and positive energy for the well-being of others. Okay? And as part of that training, as we engage in like positive actions or practice, self-cherishing attitude will do everything to obstruct us, right? Let's say you're trying to give, a gift to a needy person, generosity. Self-cherishing might like, no, think twice. Maybe you need it more. Don't give. And that's when that thought kind of thing comes up. Then we say, you know what? No, I'm just going to do the opposite. I don't care what happens to me. I'm going to give. This is what I want to do. So be rebellious. We will rebel against the self-cherishing attitude, right? No. So the point Geshe is trying to make is when we find ourselves in any situation where any kind of a delusional thought appears, mostly self-cherishing attitudes is stricken with, is that if we are trying to make a gift to the needy, it says like, no, you need it more, right? We should recognize again that the self-cherishing attitude is tricking our mind, isn't it? So this is called miserliness, isn't it? When we are not able to let go of things shared with others, the miserliness, even if you don't need it, it's just like, you need it, right? So we should be able to counteract that. That's called practice, isn't it? When a certain kind of obstacle and delusion comes in the mind, we use another kind of antidote to counteract it. This is what the practice is all about. So we can do the same thing with any of the 6 perfections, right? If the anger pops up, we try to find an opportunity to generate patience or tolerance, isn't it? So that's the way to do practice. Of course, it's very important for us to do the learning and education first to be able to practice, but we should not stop, at the learning part, right? Developing the knowledge and not implementing it. Then it may not be useful. There's an expression in Tibetan called, don't be like a painted bright lamp. The painted bright lamp looks very bright, but has no ability to illuminate the darkness. It's just a painted bright light, isn't it? So if we just only stay at the intellectual level, learning part, and don't implement it, then it's just like the darkness stays. There is no illumination, right? So we need to counteract as much as we can the different afflictive emotions that arises in our mind right then and there. That's the best way to do it. Okay.
Well, this is Garza. Namju Lamrito Sundu in there, Garza. The Lojo Mena in the Remoman, so because limit someone just.
No, sir. No, sir.
Dumdrim and Damit that's yeah. Said that we so Lojo Young that Kaiser Yama Hilia. In the chamber for your clever share to chat, yes, that was I think shit.
No,
Indeed, in the Lojo is yet.
no,
In the Domdru song, the Domdru and Tabaco Domdru the Marta.
no, sir.
That was the only thing I should have.
Not it.
The Domdru the Yola.
Not it.
Did we not in it? Damn it, that the Jagdis were that area was a chicky yiki. They are in the Chavra.
Not it.
They are in
No, no, sir. So that's what we said that if we don't implement what we have learned, then our situation may be more like a painted bright lamp. It looks very bright on the painting, but it has no ability to eliminate the darkness. Or that if we are lacking in the accumulation of positive energy and wisdom, the two collections, as we said, Phuntsok in Tibetan, then our practice is more like a beautiful dry seed that does not have a moisture with it. So it's not going to germinate, isn't it? So without the collection of merit and wisdom, we cannot germinate and grow more. So we will be like a beautiful dry seed, right? And if we don't, observe the commitments and vows that we have taken, then we will be likened to sort of an empty. It's like a empty treasure house. Like maybe if there's a beautiful treasure, unowned by anybody else, anybody can go and take anything out of that. So pretty soon that treasure will be empty. So if we don't observe our vows and commitments purely, it's just like having an empty. Owning an empty treasure house, Yes. No, so. No, so. So then here on page I think 56, we say now we basically kind of telling the self-judging attitude inside our mind. He said, what? Now, I have realized all the things that you have done, to me for such a long time in samsara. Now I have made a new pledge that I'm going to dedicate myself to cherishing others and promoting their well-being. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. This is my pledge. Okay? So this is where you and I am going to be separated. So it's just like we are divorcing from the self-cherishing attitude. We sign the paper, said, now I pledge to go the other direction. You go your way. We have a good, happy divorce here.
什么穷是但这时候好像他生就是被俺们他那不这个，因为生就是当地希望说的，当地的希望就咱用的，但今天他俺这边当地的希望的就各个东西的这个嘛是也就用这个买个通啥说，是他是的他就看这个俺的那个现在是我是，就用的通人子，因为。결혼 그게 남중이 까마가 시야 내가 그래서 오늘 시에서 까마 배치에 난 그거다 되다 단대 뒤에 두서 현다래 잘시와 까마서도 로지지 좀 마서 가서 그 강지 되려와 나좀 더 가서 다 치고 거기 되고 말
In the middle of page 56, we have a long quote from Shantideva's engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds. So we are having a very constructive dialogue, if you will, with our own self-cherishing attitude, right? So we're just letting you, meaning self-cherishing attitude, okay? So we're telling the self-cherishing attitude that, I was completely controlled by you, and I, listened to your dictations all this time, and so all that thing is now past, isn't it? Now I see you, in every shape and colors, and that you have brought me so much pain, and you will bring if I stay with you. So therefore, now I have a new realization. I'm going in a different direction, different path, so you cannot confuse me anymore, right? We're having a dialogue with the self-cherishing attitude. So if you think you succeeded with me so far, yes, you have, but that was past. Okay, goodbye. Now we are starting a new chapter, so I'm not going to be with you. So that's what basically we are telling the self-cherishing attitude. So he said, now so far I have let my mind controlled by you. Now I'm owning my own mind. I'm going to control the mind and go in a different direction. So I'm not going to listen to you anymore. Yes.
사실 나게념이 지야 되고 지에는 그게 뉴시 보여서 그렇게 지야 열어와. 다 로지디 동시 보여서 거 가나 가야 유세 열어. 이 또디 야영 상이 유튜브로 말이지 제비디 제 로데다 야나 시야다 로지디 동 야나 따야 제 엔디 냐수가 그래서다. 얘는 나기 송아 사고 계속사 다디 사고.
And at the end of page 56, it says that by engaging in repeated contemplation and exploration and reflection, so we, convince ourselves there are many good reasons, justifications why, self-cherishing attitude, is not good for us, and we should let go of self-cherishing attitude. There are many reasons and justifications why cherishing others is a much better option, and why we should do that. It's possible to do that. Okay. So it's very important for us to bring that kind of enthusiasm and conviction in our mind that hereafter I'm starting a new life, so to speak. I'm very enthusiastic about this. This is new course of action, new way of thinking, and so I have many good reasons why this should work much better. Okay, because there are no good reasons to work on the self-cherishing attitude, and so as we have just talked about. So we will stop there today, and. Sorry that we cannot have question answer for today. What did I lose? Something together with my self-cherishing attitude here, piece of paper. And then we have take a short break and put the table together for the talk opening prayers. Can this come to Shuchochi? Kazantari Tun Yumadelia, the Vietnamese is a Molaji Tongduan. I have a prayer request for Mrs. Mai Wu, 74 years old, who passed on December 7th. Okay, so let's think about all others who have lost their lives under different conditions. Sadong Golo Gebe, Gabodon, Chendon Kebazan, Sanyedon, Kala Gandu, Dela Delemba, Jumba Cheresela, Chanze, Omani Beme, 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 Omone beme ore gyawan di nyodo da chere se wan dojo ne dowa che ja ma le wa de so la gu kange lo de jinye den de nin da nam da ra se be jinye dun gun chi xin se je ni je so ga le bam zen kan da se be chun ra ma re mun dong dong ne ji 这座功劳不计大者养老主之养天松主导切着牛毛来节张中这这马里民生东人今年选择热地能今年大节杀猪他是原定轮着假设都有主导去年见的道路养老的 Omara bazana di 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 Omara bazana di zende cheje kera vese gen dalu timo mimba rase kada denje junu doba lodyo bombe nawa zendo zo lodyo gyazu uchun bega de kesan bombe chudo mimba jin tenba zinla wando Tanya Jogun Jala so the page 21. Obeisance to my Guru and Protector Manjushri, who holds at his heart a scriptural text, symbolic of his seeing all things as they are, whose intelligence shines forth as the sun, unclouded by delusions or traces of ignorance, who teaches in 60 ways with the loving compassion of a father for his only son, all creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. You whose dragon thunder-like proclamation of Dharma arouses us from the stupor of our delusions, free us from the Einstein, who wields the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. You who have been pure from the beginning, who have completed the stages achieving the highest perfection of a bodhisattva, whose princely body is adorned with 112 marks of a Buddha, I bow down to you, Manjushri, Om Arapasana-di. O compassionate one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind, enlighten my intelligence and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into Buddha's words and texts that explain that. 31. Like the sweet perfume of white lotus, born in the ocean of knowledge, nourishing honeybees, the fortunate being, your fame pervades all directions. You are proficient and powerful in upholding the precious doctrine. To you, O Lobsang Tenzin Wangda, respectfully I pray.
Kính lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, bậc đại trí, ngài điều phục hai chướng ngại. Tiếng rồng vang ngài thức tỉnh hữu tình. Gươm trí tuệ ngài chặt đứt vô minh, tận diệt muôn vàn khổ đau cùng ách nạn. Trưởng tử Như Lai tối thắng toàn giác, ngài an trụ nơi thập địa pháp vân. Báu thân ngài trang nghiêm thanh tịnh, 112 tướng hảo Như Lai. Đây đầu đảnh lễ Đức Văn Thù Sư Lợi, cúi xin ngài tận diệt ám chướng vô minh. Om Arapasanadi. Con khẩn cầu dưới gót sen bậc đại trí, ban pháp lực diệt phiền não vô minh. Được trí sáng con thâm nhập nghĩa màu, pháp vi diệu cùng muôn vàn luận giải. Như rượu hương ngọt ngào từ sen trắng, đàn xanh nơi chí thù thắng đại dương, hàng thiện căn như ông mật thọ nương, hồng danh ngài khắp mười phương quảng bá, đấng thiện xảo uy dũng bảo tồn pháp bảo vô giá. Nam mô Lúc Sang Tenzin Quang Đắc, xin cung kính trì niệm.
Niyanda yo